I trained that.
Oh, is that the one you're not getting the, are you not getting the computer up there, or you're not getting the presentation up there?
I'm not getting anything. Just
Okay. I'll be over. I'm still in the office.
yeah. It should be sort or with the computer, right? On the
Yeah,
remote.
is it
Should be.
different?
Yeah.
Okay, so I still have my. Okay, good.
I just have the screen. I'm in settings.
I think that door is.
The door is locked for some reason. I'm in settings, display. Okay.
Choose source on the remote.
Hey, those doors are locked. The maid's guy around?
They go sort. I'm trying to find them.
Okay. How's Pat doing?
When I do that,
Oh, I'm doing fine. How about you?
Good.
it says computer one off.
Yeah. I think it's that fixed.
Yeah.
Searching for a
I'm
source.
not letting it.
Here, video's on.
I think that one up there should be a computer.
That's what I thought. And it says those signal sources are off. I tried to use the.
You see, you trying to find things,
Turn it
Pat?
on.
You want me to go upstairs and look for him?
He's on the, with, I think, Jerry trying to get that on.
He started in the, like, the bathroom doors are open, but I don't see him anywhere.
I'll go look for him.
Okay. I'm gonna get it.
I'll be over in a second.
Okey doke. Bye.
Hello.
Okay, I lose my dad.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Just getting started.
I know, I hate it when summer gets to the point where we start falling. And I know we're one season away from that.
Jerry.
There, Mr. Steve.
How you doing?
I was always surprised to see his microphone here.
TMI.
I just happened to turn that on,
Yeah.
and of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have to.
Middle of the winter, going through, we did house checks, stay there. Take the sale,
It's gotta be
did house
helpful.
checks, we did dozens of.
Is this meeting at 6
Put
or
150,
6:30?
160 business stores every single month. You get
Is that the
tired.
one locked when you came in?
Yeah.
Is the door locked out there?
There's a woman out
I
there.
can see why you don't like that.
They're trying to find somebody to get the doors unlocked.
Is Brandy still in the department?
No, she resigned. Yeah.
Brandy did.
Yeah.
Kind of where you sit.
Maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that.
See over here?
Yeah.
Shit, oh, that,
Yeah.
God almighty.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I was reading a retirement report or something, and I saw that her as like deputy or, you know,
Yeah.
some kind of title, and I thought, oh, good, she's still
Yeah,
there.
she's here, was the department.
How was it?
So I was just saying, the guy that keeps paying me.
I don't know. I think that might have been part of it.
It's probably a little bit too much stress.
Yeah.
No problem from there.
It could have been, so. It's.
Hi, Jack.
How are you, Scott?
How you doing?
Good. See, if I'm not doing it.
No.
It's interesting.
Jerry's on his way.
Problems with
Yeah, I don't know.
what's happening?
Hey,
Good, how about you?
cold.
You don't know cold.
I haven't been in Siberia, but I've been close. How about you, Colonel? You ever been in Siberia?
No, thank you. I'm not a cold weather guy.
In the Hindu Kush at 14,000 feet in December.
In your little helicopter?
Back again.
Would you put your hat?
Okay.
I think you should wear it. Call you the Czar.
My hair out of place?
We'll call you the Czar.
I want to remind you, YouTube is on.
Yeah, I want that edited. Is Commissioner ever been honest with me?
Guess is as good as mine.
He told me to give him a call. Darn it.
He knew it was 6 o'clock.
I don't know if I'll need it.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I'm undercover today. Where's that?
I think we can get it started.
Oh, now you put me on.
They got it.
Jerry, I'll run
Commissioner
it for
here
you.
anyway.
Jerry, I'll run it for you.
We had,
Okay.
we had,
I think I'll pass on that.
He had quick,
Where
he
you
had
at?
quick meeting.
don't worry about it. We got you covered. We got you covered.
I'd be using overheads and carousel slides.
Don't worry, don't worry about it. We're gonna start. There's about 47.
48.
We have Jack McKernan here.
I'm a
So
side
we're
Jack.
good. No. So take your time. Okay. Sure. He apologizes, but he's running late for the meeting he was at.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead and get started.
yeah, we can start.
Okay. Steve?
We'll go with it, and when we catch up on screen, don't worry about
Yeah, we'll convene the public meeting at this time for regards to the 2023 budget. And at this time, I want Mr. Sims, who's the acting interim director of finances, budget and finance, to a presentation.
Okay, what I have for us this evening is the 2023 preliminary county budget for tonight's town hall meeting. High overview of a summary of the 2023 budget. Projected revenues are at $105.7 million. This is a $4.4 million decrease over the current 2022 budget, or approximately 4%. Expenditures countywide are projected in 2023 to be at $138.9 million. This represents a $1.8 million increase compared to the current 2022 budget, and that represents about a 1.3% increase. If we look at the revenues budget 2023 versus 2024, the decrease, like I said, is about $4.4 million. Most of this is because of grant revenues are projected to be down. That basically makes up the entire difference, the amounts we're getting from other governmental entities. The expenditure increase is a low percentage and is essentially just comprised of nominal increases and decreases throughout the departments within the county that come up with that increase for 2023. The result of this budget is approximately $33 million budget deficit While this might sound bad, this is not alarming. Most of this deficit is a result of Act 13 expenditures that are included in the 2023 budget when we actually received those monies in prior years. There are also increased costs in economic development in the 2023 budget, and these are also funded through either Act 13 or ARPA monies that were received in prior years. There's also some pretty significant capital projects, and a lot of those have been have monies set aside in reserve funds that from prior years as well. The county general fund balance right now is approximately $30 million. Act 13 funding, we have a balance of approximately $24.5 million, and the ARPA funding balance, fund balance is approximately $21.5 million. If we had the presentation up on the screen there, we could look at what the segments or division of funds we have within the county. Is basically the general fund, special revenue funds, debt service funds, and enterprise funds. General fund is basically made up of the county departments, such as the Department of Budget and Finance, Human Resources, the Treasurer's Office, Sheriff's Office, and so forth. Special revenue funds are made up of domestic relations, registers and recorder, pathonetary, and those sorts of departments. The debt service fund is basically just made up of the county's outstanding bonds and notes. The debt service funds are actually projected to decrease in 2023 as we pay down some of those bonds. And then finally, the last fund is made up of the enterprise fund, which are funds that are intended to be more like a private business. So the enterprise funds for the county consist of mostly the landfill funds. So. The result of all this basically is that the county at this point does not anticipate a real estate tax increase. The millage rate we project will stay the same as funding is available for a lot of the projects through monies received in prior years and with the results of the work of the current budget. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Any comments? Okay. You highlighted a couple things. The fund balance is at $30 million, which is a very significant fund balance. The ARPA funds are at $21.5 million, and the Act 13 monies are $24.5 million. A lot of the expenditures going out are capital projects. You mentioned the property for the borough prisons. To expand the landfill, that's a $5 million project.
Correct.
The housing initiative program that we're doing through Act 13, that's another $2 million for next year. Going into 2024, looking at the capital budget projects that are going out, they're much more, there's a lot fewer than this year. There's quite a few this year.
Yes, capital funding funds reserved, or capital needs definitely decrease in future years. And a lot of those projects are projects set aside that may or may not happen this year, the prison ground being a great example. There's a good chunk of funds set aside for that already, but whether that happens, it's been a process for several years now. It looks like it's finally coming to fruition, but whether that deal gets closed by the end of 23 or 24, we're not sure at this point yet. And with the delays in the supply chain, they're also sort of bunch a lot of the capital expenditures together into a group. So,
And we've seen the increase in those costs. We've seen increased cost in diesel, a lot of heating, electricity, increased costs going forward next year.
correct.
So those are some of the things that are driving costs going up also. I believe the presentation's up on the screen here now. I don't know if you want to highlight anything.
Yeah, it basically was just to kind of define the sort of the terminology and sort of the uses and funds. Can you go back a couple of slides there? Keep going. One more, I think. One more. Yeah, basically just show the revenues from the different funding sources. You know, it's interesting that taxes Tax revenues only comprise about 37% of our entire county budget of $105 million. The rest of it is made up from intergovernmental funds, grants we receive, and also from service charges. Most of the service charges we see up there in the purple at the 19.6%. A good chunk of that comes from for the revenues that are received over at the landfill. If you go 2 more slides forward, this is a breakdown of the expenditures. I think we need to update our penny to $1 with the inflation. The penny, to understand what 12% of a penny is a hard concept to grasp these days. But if we look at the expenditures, a lot of it is sort of equally distributed for the most part. There's not a large chunk of the expenses that go to any one area or department. The largest being public safety at 19%, judicial and general government comprise of 12% of all expenses. Public Works or RMS is at 15% of all expenses. Human Services at 11%. Public Works, it's not landfill related, is another 10%. So kind of a breakdown of where the expenses are taken out from our penny that is not worth a whole lot anymore.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the public?
Is this the time?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Steve, you mentioned that.
Could you state your name, sir?
It's Jack McKernan.
Because we're
Williamsport.
we're live streamed. Go ahead. We're live streamed.
Oh, okay.
Do we have
Yeah,
is there a mic over there that he could go up and speak into so that people can hear him? I'm sorry, Jack, Commissioner.
No problem.
Gotta press the
I-
button on that one.
Just reading the executive summary, I think you had mentioned 4%, and the summary says 2.53. Could you just look at your beginning comments, and there seemed to be or maybe you said the decrease was 4%, and it shows 2.69.
Okay, yeah, no, it's a $4.4 million decrease, so it would represent the almost 4%, 3.98% would be what it is. So we'll have to update that in the summary.
And further down, it says the county has a healthy reserve level which is expected to grow in 2023 as a result of decreased spending and projects that will not get completed. Does that not get completed in 22, or you're just? 22
and 23, depending on the timing of everything. Like a good example, I'm more familiar with what's going on at RMS. At this point, just being put in this position a few weeks ago, RMS had a line item on the budget for the prison property in 2022 for the budget, anticipating a closure of the property in 2022. It did not happen. It's in 2023 again. We don't know if that'll happen in 2023 or not. We really hope that it will. So those types of items would be included in that statement.
So I kind of forget, but in under the enterprise fund for RMS, on the revenue side, I don't know where it would show up, but it seems to me that with interest rates going up the way they have in the last 12 months, that there must be, I would think you must be planning on a huge increase in interest income.
There is, but corresponding with that, RMS is invested in a lot of bonds that had been invested prior to the uptick in interest rates in the market. So as that's happened and the interest rates have gone up, but the value of some of those bonds that we've held prior to the interest rates going up, that we've had for 4 or 5 years at this point, might only be getting 2.5%. The value of those bonds in the market has decreased, and so they sort of have offset each other. So it is included, but it's not necessarily the windfall that would have been there on paper anyway, because of the market value of those investments has decreased.
I forget who manages the investments for RMS, the invested money.
It's spread out through multiple local banks. Citizens in Northern has a pretty good chunk of it, and they hold a lot of the bonds and manage the bonds that we have invested for the long-term closure projects.
Jack, we just got off the phone yesterday with
Yeah.
3+1 with our fourth quarter cash fest update.
For the, just for the
For the county.
county.
For the cash investments. And so we're moving monies around in 90-day periods, because the rates are changing so frequently that we don't want to lock in for 180 days and not take advantage of something that's going to happen, we believe, in January. In fact, longer term investments, CDs and others, actually have lower rates when you get further out in the number of years.
It's an inverted yield curve right now, because we had asked, yesterday we were looking at tying up some monies into CDs, and one of them was specific to RMS for long-term closure, and we asked about taking it out 5 years. If a 1-year CD was at such a good rate, and it actually, in the 5-year term, it actually isn't as good as the 1-year term right now, so.
New environment.
I guess I primarily came, there was an article in the paper the other week, and I think you were looking for comment on the possibility of $5 million for the Lycoming Mall project.
That's correct.
And since then, Senator Yoa said there's going to be.
There's 5 million additional.
Do you have to provide, are you thinking about matching that, or are you required?
No, that's separate. That is going towards, it's a RAPT grant that is going towards the renovations of the road down going into the facility, and part of the demolition of the building, and they're using those 5 million towards other uses of the wall being reconstructed, not reconstructed, but revitalized in their purposes, what they're gonna do. That's a grant, ours is a loan.
Okay. And at the time, that article was in, it really didn't say, what the investors were planning on doing in that area. So without knowing that, my thought was, given the current economic, where unemployment's at 4.8%, I get the idea of wanting to have a piece of ground available for somebody to come in and do something with, but with $5 million, would that money be possibly put to better use on using it to do the countywide reassessment? Because I think that's about what it would cost to do it, if I recall. And, with interest rates high right now, it might help keep prices of housing a little bit more realistic than a few years ago. If you did it, the prices would have been way out, and people would have ended up paying more taxes. But that might possibly help to spread the taxing roll more evenly within the community.
We were approached by the chamber about this opportunity. These gentlemen are out of State College, and one's from Muncie. They're the ones that developed the Texas Roadhouse, the ones that developed Chipotle's. They're the ones that the city just approved $1 million for the ARPA monies for the project over on Main Street. It's the same group of investors. They're going to be doing that over there. What they want to do down there now is a mixed use, which will be some housing, some retail, some restaurants, but they can't divulge exactly what they want to do because they're in the process of negotiating leases with different franchises and entities, but they don't own the property yet. So until they own the property, they can't go forward with that. But they have preliminary ideas. They're going to be at a future commissioners meeting to explain exactly what they would like to do in the entirety. And at that time, they'll explain more in detail what they want to do. But it's going to increase the tax base. It's going to increase all. Our concern right now is that's in the growth corridor, and someone can come in tomorrow and not develop it, not do anything with it, and that's not going to be beneficial to anyone in this county. By having it developed, it's just going to be a win-win for everyone.
And I would just make the assumption, and you don't need to comment, but I have to assume that you guys know more than what you're able to tell.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would also think that, you know, if you have the opportunity and you move forward with that, is to make sure that the money is used to try to help the Lycoming County Sewer and Water Authority, since I think they were kind of on the hook with the county, with owing the county some money, and, you know, financially, just, I mean, to make sure that their, you know, that their funds go there to help them.
Plus, this is also a $5 million loan at 3% interest, so we'll be receiving $750,000 back on that loan. And we are equal lien holders with the bank on the property.
And I mean, this is just I could swear that USDA, and I think when the county was finalizing, you know, the work with the airport project, that it seemed like the USDA had a lot of money available for small communities, and Montoursville fit that because they were so small. And I would have to think that maybe, you know, the Muncie Township area would fit that, you know, where if you can use the federal money instead of county money, and it works for both parties, and, you know, maybe why not do it? I don't know.
I know they're exploring all other options too.
One of the things that Steve mentioned was is a $33 million deficit.
Correct, yes.
And a lot of that had to do with Act 13 projects that are going to be getting paid or funded. But I also think you said that the Act 13 budget, or the Act 13 balance right now is $24.5 million.
Correct.
So the budget deficit, I mean, I would hope that we're not using all the Act 13 money to fund projects that's going to run that to a zero balance.
No, that's not.
And I.
No, we're not even close to that.
No.
Okay.
There's the American Rescue ARPA monies are in there as well,
Yeah.
to help fund those projects in the budget, and that's another 24 million. Or 21 million,
Money that
excuse
you
me.
talk about, is that something that the county has received?
Yeah, for both
Yeah.
years.
And Jack, there's stipulations with the ARPA money,
Mhm.
and our housing study, because we did another housing study, is showing that we don't have enough new homes or development to fulfill the needs of our community for growth, okay? And this project, the mall project is one area, but there are other projects throughout our communities that we're looking at funding. And we have made an aggressive decision to, I believe, use $4 million of the Act 13 money over a 2-year period to get these developments funded, okay, help funded. There was a tremendous interest in this. Commissioner Metzger and Mayor Beto held several meetings with developers to
Realtors.
get their ideas
Yeah.
and see where we could help them out. It was very, very fruitful, and we take a look at it now as what is going to be our return on investment. Some are grants, some are loans, but it's not something that the county's often done before. But we're seeing the need to do so, and we are getting all kind of comments, positive comments about how we're addressing some of the issues. So, you know, in the years past, you know, we try to leave that up to the individual private sector, but today, with the soft cost, the regulations, just everything has exploded to where it's very difficult to get investors to look at rural Pennsylvania. And we're doing whatever we can do to get that turned around.
Did you, so on that, sorry, I apologize for being late. Did you talk about the fact, so what happened is that we had a proposal to actually try to bring jobs in the community by giving grants to employers. And we were having conversations with the chamber about it, and Brent Fish from the chamber said to Jason, you know, actually it reached the point where I think the three of us had decided, hey, the problem isn't jobs, the problem is getting people here, because we had the place down there in opposite the landfill, that, right, fence company, we had Geisinger opening a facility, we had Brodart being purchased by, not Brodart, Shopvac being purchased by a Chinese company. You know, we were looking at them getting closed. We had another division of the same company that bought Shopvac bring their folks here. So
West Company expanded.
West Company expanded. So what Commissioner Massera is talking about is that the chamber came to us, Brent Fish and Jason, and said, actually it was Brent, said, look, what we really need is housing. Right now, there's
normally about 650 on the market.
Yeah.
And at that time, there was 125
listings. for
listings.
homes. So we put together this program where we would pay, as he said, the soft cost, meaning the water sewer hookup. So for example, we just did a ribbon cutting a couple of weeks ago out at the west end, before you get to Wahoo. So up there, they're putting in, I think,
20 townhomes.
20 townhomes.
Yeah.
So we granted them 34,000, the city gave them, I think, 66. And we figured that tax return on these new properties will come back to us within like a year.
Mhm.
Yeah, less than a year,
Yeah.
3 years. So other developers have brought us projects saying, look, we would build X number of houses. And we've looked and we're gonna get new tax revenue, right? So the goal is to try to grow the tax base. This all presumes that someone sells their house to someone else, moves into the new house. But from what the realtors are telling us, people are moving to Lewisburg because they want to buy a new home. They don't want a home that's maybe 120 years old. What a concept. No, but it's true, right? Even our housing stock in Newbury and everything like that, it's 80, 90 years old. So that's where 4 million of it is going. 2 million this year and 2 million next year, the Act 13. And then the 5 million for the mall.
Levy?
For the levy, we've put money into the levy.
We put $4 million into the levy, 5 million I mentioned for the BOP property.
Yeah, that's put aside,
Yep,
right?
so.
For this 22nd year?
Yeah, yeah. We don't know, yeah.
We're close.
It is close.
It drives that deficit up.
If I'm looking at the right thing, under the, looks like, budget and finance, the Act 13 gas impact fees, that the revenues for this year were projected at 3.1 million, and next year they're only 3 million.
Yeah. What page are you on?
Page 14.
Okay.
I would have to think the way gas has been this year, that unless there's been any new wells put in, and
This trails though, and I'm trying to remember under the legislation how far it trails.
I can tell you this.
yeah, but it depends on if there's
New
new wells that are
wells,
still
right.
going in, it's gonna.
Right.
Production had very limited increase. You know, that was, one of the categories was production. If it was at $1.99 to $2.99, you'd get this. $3 to $4.99, you'd get this. But it was a small fraction as to what you receive for the drilling of the well. So it's a 15-year. You know. But I will say this, people think that they're not drilling. They are.
They are.
All you gotta do is watch the trucks go down.
Yeah.
Oh, there's going to be a lot more in 2023 than you can imagine. It's profitable to start drilling again because of the prices. And we should expect that Act 13 in future years, in 2024, 2025, even though some will be coming off of the revenue, many more will be entering it. So the Act 13 is going to be pretty solid. I think we've all taken a conservative approach on how we utilize, just as we did when you were in office here. And I think we have a lot to be optimistic about as far as preserving that fund.
And my in-laws live in Gamble Township, and they had a pad drilled a few years ago, and it kind of leveled off. Well, there's a new one going up there right now, and they're starting to drill. So I think you're absolutely correct with your statement.
On the HR front, I know, I try to read, I don't get the paper, but I do read the paper when I'm at my dad's house, and the county's going through the problems that everybody else has. But earlier in the year in particular, there seemed to be, you were in need of a lot of people, and probably still are. But with this new HR director, who, it sounds like, they've been working on a lot of, updating and stuff like that. But one of the things that the county had been trying to do for a number of years was to reduce the head count. And since you're already short so many people, has the new HR director looked at trying to either consolidate positions or do something to, relieve the legacy cost in future years? I don't know what the head
So
count is.
we have, the head count
right
is
now.
503 full-time, but the TDA count is, I think, 532, or,
We're down about 30 right now.
Yeah,
We were
we're
down
down.
50.
right,
Now
but
we're down
we're,
about 30.
yeah. Oh, no, I'm not sure if the TDA is 532 or 552, but.
550.
532?
552.
552.
But the actual reality is 503 that we're paying. But, so the problem with that, of course, is we're budgeting for 552, which we have to, right? But that's why we've had some money. I think that it's fair to say that the three of us are focused on retention in terms of what can we do to retain people because of the fact that it is so hard to find people.
And recruit.
And that's what I mean, recruit is.
And HR has done a good job with the different technology they've brought to reduce things. For instance, when we used to do the, each year with the benefit package, we used to do that all by paper. Now it's all done online, it's done over the phone. The redundancy of that is been reduced tremendously. The system that we're using to recruit is a updated system that's called DEAR, which was an investment with us. It's paid big dividends to the different departments. They get the applications immediately right there They can contact the applicants, start the interview process right away. So they've streamlined a lot of things that needed to be streamlined.
I think if you look. That I wanna say though, is that, you know, I know, you know, money's a big object with everybody that takes a job, but I think, you know, sometimes you need to do a better job at kind of marketing with the people, the county associates that you have, and people that you're trying to hire that, you know, maybe we're not paying the top dollar, but we've got one hell of a good health plan, and we've got a great retirement plan that, you know, it's hard for, you know, the general public companies to match, you know, what you're able to do. And, you know, a lot of times the employee looks at, oh, you know, my W-2 says 45,000. Well, you know, take a look at the health plan that you've got. You know, take a look at the pension plan that you're gonna have if you stick it out and stay with us. You know, there is a lot of value to that, and I just think, you know, sometimes the HR people have just gotta do a better job at telling them what the total package is worth.
So we just, you'll appreciate this, that the system that we had in place, when people came to us, if they came with 5 years' experience, we had to start them from the beginning of the pay scale. So, you know, 10 or 15 years ago, that might have flown and worked, especially when there was the step structure, because people could see where they were going, and they were gonna go up a step and then get a COLA. So what we just did recently, we voted a couple of weeks ago, was to give HR the ability, they did a analysis of all the job, and they're also looking at job descriptions, because some of the job descriptions are 20 years old. So now when a new hire comes in, we can say, okay, you have 10 years experience as a telecommunication person, or 10 years experience as a, you know, when it doesn't apply to the collective bargaining agreements, but planning, and then they can slot them in based on that. The problem we have is that we got to deal with the existing people who have been here, who also have 10 years experience. Maybe their experiences with the county. So we're trying, but we do try to remind people. We just had a meeting the other day, and it was a small group, but we reminded people that the pension, you know, the county has putting into the pension. People put in also. They put in 8%, right? We know that. The public needs to know that the county employees put 8% of their own money into the pension. And it really wasn't until 2005 or so that the county started to put money into the ADEC, you know, that defined amount. But I think HR does try to do that. I mean, we know that it costs money for that health plan. And
Jack, I think when you take a look at when you served in the last board of commissioners, our budget for payroll was probably about anywhere from 25, 26, 27 million. And we're still at 24 million actual. So that's telling you the severity of the problem, okay? It's not that we don't want to hire people. We can't get them. So now you need recruitment and you need retention. You of all people understand. I hear you on the radio, right? And you're doing everything you can do to incentivize new hires and your current workforce. We have to do the same now. And not that we haven't, it's just that it's a different generation. I mean, people don't want to work 9 hours. They want to work 8 hours, right? They want to start at the top of the pay scale and, well, oh well.
If
It's the same.
you go back to 2016, the salaries were 24.5 million. We're about that right now. So in 6 years, they haven't really increased. What we've done this year is we have, with the study we just did, the compensation study, there's 395,000 that'll go out towards 200 some employees starting January 1st of 2023.
That's their base pay.
Okay, Okay, and then on top of that, county employees will be receiving a 3.5% increase across the board. So between those two, that's $709,000. So between the two of those, that's over $1 million that we're allocating in the next years to try to attack this problem. We have a salary structure that has not been updated in 34 years. The step system was taken away in 2014, which needed to be addressed, but no solution was put in place. So this continues to get worse each year. It's the number one concern that we hear from our employees. That's all HR hears all day long, is the salary structure, what's going to be done to it, and we're losing employees to other companies because of it. So we had HR tackle this for the last 6 months. They brought this to us, and this is what we have done. It's something we can afford. As we go through the next phase, beginning after next first of the year, we'll start to look at the market value for each one of those positions. What's the market pay for those positions? If we can afford it, we'll address it. If we can't afford it, then we're going to have to skip it. It comes down to affordability, what we can do within our budget. And these are things right now that we can do within our budget.
You know, workforce, you probably hear it. You know, it's about having your own time. You know, I don't want to work all those extra hours. It's about health care, but not to the young people. Young people don't really care about that health care. But we do have a good health care policy. But one of the biggest obstacles people in the workforce today face is child care. And this is a crisis. This is going to sneak up on us within the next couple of years. It's already here, that there's shortages of workers for daycare. The regulations that exist currently are not helping that out because they're not being compensated enough. They can't get people to go into the profession because they're only paying $11, $12 an hour. So when we start talking about how do you increase their pay, you know, because that's important. A lot of people didn't come back to the workforce because what? They found it was cheaper to stay home. It was better to stay home. And so we have to be creative. Is there a possibility of creating some type of subsidy, some type of child care within the county versus hitting the baseline, you know, salary increases? I mean, these are things that can help the community and help the families as well. We're doing everything that we can do to attract, and we still have to stay within our budget.
For instance, 36% of the county employees make $40,000 or less. 36%. You take 8% off of that for their pension fund. Then you take their taxes out, their health care out. What they have left is what they have to live off of, and go out and pay a $200 per week child care bill. They can't afford it. It's cheaper to stay home. And that's why we have that situation facing us a lot of the different employers throughout the county and across the nation. Child care is a major issue.
And you know, we have to supply, you know, up prison, the sheriffs, courts, DAs. We have to do that. We have no option.
I understand that the county, and I tried to find maybe minutes, but I couldn't. Recently at the retirement board meeting, did you approved an increase in the COLA again?
Yeah,
2%.
2%. They've received 4 increases in the last 7 years, and this was voted on by a 2% increase. The pension fund is in very, very good shape. We looked at the fact that with the inflation rate being the way it is, and we felt at 2% we could definitely afford it. I believe it was
$329,000.
Cost was $129,000.
It was $129,000.
What'd you say?
Yes, it was $129,000.
$169,000?
No.
That was $129,000 added to it, to the pension fund.
for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's
Yeah.
the cost.
it's every year.
Yeah.
it's every year.
It's every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, that was, and I guess, that's one of the things when you're talking to people that on retention side, there are far and few between, and I don't know enough about that area to find an industry where that there's a pension increase after somebody retires. I mean, you get a pension and it usually stays flat, and that just that's interesting.
It wasn't a unanimous vote.
Yeah.
It was a 5-to-1 vote, but also, we asked Nikki what the average county pension is. The average county pension is $22,000 a year. That's not a lot to live off of when you're retired, especially if that's your sole income. And
Okay, but that's not the county's responsibility either. I mean, it's the individual's responsibility.
Right, but remember that the individuals are putting 8% in.
Correct.
Of their own money.
They're keeping it
So-
healthy for those years.
And I think there is an argument that one can make. So the ADEC, we've been putting in like, say, 1.8 or 2 million, right? I worked that out one time, and I think it results in about $1.55 an hour, I figured, for each employee. So,
Before you get too far into ADEC though, what did we do with what did the county do with the mortality tables?
We raised it.
we raised it.
So-
We brought them into the modern era.
Right.
Okay, so.
But the good news
If the
is,
mortality table's going up, it means that ADEC must have went down.
well, no, the ADEC, if the mortality table goes up, the ADEC would go up because people are gonna live longer. It's, right? I mean, we changed the mortality table to reflect the actual fact that people are living longer than they lived, right? But because the ADEC is driven so much by smoothing, this year the ADEC's 168,000, next year, 2023, right?
68,000.
Yeah.
Was it 68 or 68?
68,000.
So next year, the only contribution the county has to make is
68,000
68,000
bucks.
pension plan.
That's it.
Because the years when you were here and the years we just finished, we were smoothing the losses that had occurred previously.
Yep.
Now,
Isn't that great news?
That's a snapshot, okay? That doesn't mean that that's
Gonna stay that way
It's not gonna
forever.
stay that way forever,
No, no.
but listen,
That's a good year.
it's a good year, you know,
Yeah. We were very surprised to hear that news.
yeah.
The pension
Yeah, we
is
were thrilled.
well-funded.
We had a
Extremely
heart
well
attack.
funded.
Yeah,
I had to look at it 3 times when I saw
Yeah.
that number.
yeah.
Yeah, we asked them several times. They said,
It's
yep.
the smoothing that we do. We take those losses over 5 or 10 year period.
Yep.
Good questions though, because actually, it's the only member of the public who's here. But you should get credit for that.
What is the loneliest number again?
How about
That was a good song.
the fee that the landfill RMS pays the county? Is that stayed the same or is it going up?
It's $7 a ton, which is what it has been for as long as I know it. However, was it last year?
Yeah.
The landfill gave an additional $1 million
Last year.
in addition to the $7 a ton. The $7 a ton,
1.9.
well, yeah, it's it was almost 2 million. I wish I would have rounded it up,
Right.
because I keep saying 2 million. So the landfill gives around $2 million from the $7 a ton annually. In addition to that, last year we gave an additional $1 million. Last year was also a very good tonnage year, so it was actually, the $7 a ton was actually close to 2.5 million that was given back to the county. We had over
Plus
300.
the one.
We had over 300,000 tons last year.
So the taxpayers basically got from their landfill that they own, the taxpayers.
From the
got-
revenues.
Right, from the revenues, they got 3.5 million. 80% of which came from outside the county, which is nice, right?
Do you want to talk at all about the health center? I don't know what the technical name of it is.
Yeah, the
but
health center,
I
yeah.
think that's an
Yeah,
opportunity.
it's
to-
open
Talk
now.
about whatever you want to talk about.
It's open now. It was open last Monday, and we've had several employees that have attended. All the reports have been excellent. They've received excellent service. We're very excited about that because, as Commissioner Massar, when he started 11 years ago, our insurance was about $6 million. We've kept it flat line at about between 13 and 14 million the last 2.5 years. We were able to reduce some of the deductibles a little bit as a result of the savings. And they've also informed us that if the Wellness Center continues to perform like other wellness centers do, that our insurance costs will start to go down in the opposite direction.
So you'll appreciate this. When you were here, we started in Benetcon, and then we transitioned. So Benetcon was sort of like a cooperative, right, among the counties. But we were still subject to rates from an outside insurer. We were just basically aggregating our buying power, if you want to look at it that way. We were aggregating our buying power. So when we transitioned to a self-funded plan where we pay every claim, were you here when we did that? I think you were. Yeah. So we, the USI analysis that we go through every month shows us that the biggest drivers of healthcare are diabetes, musculoskeletal. And so those two things beg a different approach to healthcare than simply going to a doctor, either getting a pill or getting whatever, right? They beg lifestyle changes. They really, in fact, I was listening to UPMC on the radio today talk about the fact that they are opening a diabetes center to try to have coaches who can work with them, with their clients, as they call it. So what the Wellness Center allows us to do is to attack the healthcare problem, not from the perspective of trying to throw money at making someone better when they've already got into the really bad part of the disease, whether it's cancer or whether their diabetes got to the point where they're, possibly losing a limb, but to dial it back because we know people stay a long time and deal with the health problem in the earliest year possible. And so the incentive for the employee is there's no cost to go. They can go on work time if it's a reasonable, visit. They don't pay a copay. They don't pay prescription. In our healthcare plan, we had a limit of 16 physical therapy visits. Well, we know that there are people who work in our county who have chronic back pain, right? So instead of getting them on a medication regimen, which costs a huge amount of money and possibly leads to all sorts of other problems, if we can, through a physical therapist, deal with it, they have unlimited physical therapy. If they need to go to physical therapy once a week to keep themselves healthy, we'll do it. In the end, we believe we are going to drive down the cost of healthcare because we're going to find the problems through, early screening. We're going to find the cancers before they become the $800,000 bill that you've seen, right? We're going to reduce the costs from diabetes and musculoskeletal, both in service. Every time someone goes to a family physician, we might be popping out $150. What did we figure the other day? We did 1,000 of them a year.
Yeah, we talked about just blood work alone. They go over and get their blood work done over there, it's free. If they go to their doctors, we get a $60 bill. If they go to the hospital, we get a $600 bill for the same service.
But it's not free.
It's not free
Not
over
free.
there, but the
it's
point
not
is,
free.
we reduce the cost of
We
it. is what
reduce
it
the
meant,
cost, yeah.
right? So we don't hire, they're not county employees, they're all part of a management company.
And this
Are they
management company,
staffed locally, or are they?
Yes.
Are they,
Everybody's,
not,
yeah, the
or
doctor,
moved here.
or yeah.
Or moved here, yeah. In fact, the woman who saw me, I went over the other day, and the woman who saw me had come here from
Yeah,
some other county.
yeah.
So,
Commissioner, I'm sure you'll probably be a frequent flyer.
He already is.
see the abuse I think. No, to be honest with
Oh,
you.
we don't have a psychiatric,
No, we do have behavioral
Listen, we
health.
have behavior, and don't make fun of anyone who utilizes behavioral health. It's really important. I was there for this sinus infection, but what I enjoyed was the fact that they were looking at lifestyle issues, right? And then they also followed up. They took blood, and when I got home, there was a phone call that said, hey, listen, we're surprised you're still alive.
It was a
Blood is terrible."
misdiagnosis. You actually were there for behavioral health.
No, so I think it's gonna save the taxpayers money, and it's also a benefit, it's also a benefit. I think it's something that as elected officials, we can be proud of, along with the the bridge bundling and these other.
It'll be the biggest, it will have the biggest impact of, I think, any decision I've made in my 11 years, but.
I think the other important thing, which you haven't said a whole lot about though, is employee involvement. And, I think, when USI started that, you had to go see your doctor before the plan reading. Is there more of that? Are you?
Yeah, that's the wellness
That's
program.
gotta-
So we still have the wellness program, and you're gonna get credits towards the wellness program by visiting there if you go there. We want people to go and get baseline, we want them to go,
They have to take care, they have to want to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And we're creating incentives.
and-
From
Yeah.
UPMC does the dietary diabetes, right?
Integrity
Yeah.
Health became
They've done a great
included
job.
into our monthly USI Zoom meetings, our regular updates and our strategy meetings. And so they became a partner in what we were all trying to accomplish. And that has benefited, and they will be integral into our wellness program. And it's interesting to listen to USI, our WellWorks guy, and all those other folks talk with our integrity folks.
And
So-
Jack, our integrity people, the people that run the facility, they came over from New Jersey, did several sessions with all our employees, with the retirees, educated them on the facility, did a fantastic job of the PR on it, and so they were excited, waiting for it to open. Now it's open, and then, word of mouth from positive feedback is just gonna continue to have it grow.
I'll give you an example. Think of this, we're open on Saturdays, right? So your kid is out playing in the yard, falls out of a tree, and you don't know whether the arm is broken. Normally, you'd go to the emergency room, you'd sit there for 6 hours, you'd pay $250. The health plan will get a bill for the ER for some ridiculous stuff. We have an x-ray machine over there. You take your kid over there, they x-ray, it's not broken, boom. Costs the employee nothing, costs us, we amortize that x-ray machine over X number of years, right? And X number of uses, and everybody saves money.
Is this facility open on the weekends?
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday, 8 to 1. Yeah.
You might want to consider making the deductible higher in the plan for employees and retirees, so that it almost tilts them to want to use this, because
We are.
if they're not
Yeah.
paying a lot out of pocket, they're gonna say, what the hell, it's just
No,
a
we
couple bucks.
thought about that we want to drive people to the health center.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you choose to go to the ER on that Saturday, it may end up costing you. We had them looking at all the different services. If we have an x-ray machine, you can go there, we want them to use that. You're right, we don't want to subsidize and be paying for the x-ray machine, and then also have people go and
We'll look
use
at the data as it goes along.
And that's what Integrity Health did. They looked at our top claims. What's
Right.
driving the increases? Whether it be medication, whether it be equipment, whether it be physical therapy, whatever was driving that, then they put their formula together and said, this is where we can save you this money. Now, it costs you up front, but then after a couple years, you'll see the savings. And so there's why we have certain things at that health company. That's why they offer certain
Who
services.
is USI managing or holding them accountable? Like, who's
No.
keeping the checkbook on what it's costing to run that?
It's a
versus
flat
what-
fee.
It's a flat fee,
It's a flat fee.
Jack. It's gonna cost us whatever it is, well, we know, I think
That's monthly.
it's about 193.
$1,000 a month
a month. It's gonna cost us that.
But
to run it. But that sounds like a lot. but-
somehow you gotta see the savings have to come back somewhere.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, and you're right, and that's where over time, when we analyze the data and we look at what our top,
We've already seen the savings because we've seen in 2 years, when we started this process 2.5 years ago, we sat down, we put an RFP back out for the brokers. We put a committee together of county
Steve, you don't have to say.
department heads. That committee then interviewed those 10 brokers. We went with USI again. They sharpened their pencils, did a great job. Then we did it with the Wellness Center. We had 5 respond to the RFP, and that time we chose Integrity. We allocated about 14 million for those insurances. They're coming in under. They're coming in about 11 to 12.
One
So-
to 10.
Yeah, one was a 10. So from those savings up from what we budgeted, from what came in, it's helping pay for the Wellness Center. And that's going to, as that gets used even more, that's going to get even reduced even more.
You know, the other thing that we can try to do is, if,
Yeah,
for
10.
example, we can get the city engaged, and the city, you know, the more entities we have utilizing the X-ray, but right now it's only county employees, right? It's only county employees.
And-
It's
and
not open to the
retirees.
general public and retirees.
Retirees.
But, for example, if we did something like that, so that X-ray machine, it's like a plane, right? It's no good sitting on the ground, you gotta fly it, get it in the air. We gotta get that X-ray machine cranking away, right? So that we get the money's worth out, but I think.
But this is the wave of the future,
It
because
is.
when you look at River Valley,
You go in there at any given time, the employees are happy. And you know what? The clients are even happier. Because it's saving money. And they're able to see their patients in a really relatively quick turnaround. I mean, we can do it in a day.
Just for what it's worth, there was a county, and I think it was out in the Midwest someplace, that used a federally qualified health center for their employee program. And
Yeah.
they ran it through that.
Yeah.
That's what I did. Gentlemen, that's all I've got. for
Okay.
now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your input. Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, we'll conclude the meeting. We've answered questions and
No
You
tax
went through
increase,
the
you
whole
know the deal.
presentation.
Anyone online ask any questions?
Nope, I looked.
And
very good.
we'll have our next scheduled meetings tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Yep.
Thank you for coming, Mr. McKernan.
Thanks, Jack.
You know, it's easy to say,
Jack, you can make front page news again.
I had to give you something to talk about.
Pat?
Well, no, you should.
It was,
Listen,
one was the loneliest number. It was-
not a lonely number.
That'll be the
One
head-
was the
that'll be the
smartest
headline.
questions in the room. There you go.
I think it's easy to say.
Referencing the,
Oh, the song?
song.
Oh,
Yeah, the song.
oh.
Remember that song?
I won the lottery.
You won it.
I won the lottery.
I know, but nobody put into the kitty.
I said two. Go in IOU.
Okay.
So what?
I'll get the wheelchair tomorrow morning.